What are some big-time portal needs that the Oklahoma Sooners are going to have to address in the portal? We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need in one place to place your live NFL bets. All in one spot. Very easy to use, very simple. And the best part is you can check out and you can get the latest stats as well as view live play-by-play, everything on the same page as you place your bets. And so this week, you got the conference championship for college football. There's a few bets in there that's an option. If you want to win that $150 bonus bets, you have to place a $5 bet and you have to actually win. So hop on FanDuel.com today. You'll get started with that $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL.
Again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen. Thank you for subscribing to the show wherever you get your podcasts for free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, Jay, what do you think is going to be the biggest portal need on the offensive side of the ball for the Oklahoma Sooners?
So besides quarterback, which we all know we definitely have to get our hands on that, wide receiver room. At this point, I sense that we need to fully replenish what we have at wide receiver. I was hoping everybody would come back. Doesn't look like that with Nick Anderson hitting the portal. But you're going to have to go in and find yourself some wide receivers. You know, the good thing is that plenty of them have already hit the transfer portal. And the key thing is you got to get guys that are healthy. You can't go after those that are coming off of injury because then that's kind of productive, right? To go after a dude that's been healthy all last year and you're bringing them in here because we've already dealt with that. We need to find some dudes that could potentially be healthy and be able to play through for the year because it's a make it or break it year for Brent Venables and the staff. Ben Arbuckle is going to come in with some awesome offensive schematics as well as be super creative. But you cannot sacrifice your season in the name of trying to break in new wide receivers that potentially need to just rehab too. We got to get dudes that can play right now, mainly because, like I said, it's a make or break year for this team. But I think wide receiver is your number one thing that you're going to need. You're probably going to have to also get yourself some tight end depth and add yourself some offensive line depth. But if there's number one, it's wide receiver besides quarterback. I think that's the most for granted one of anybody on this roster.
Yeah, I think if you're going to go after some wide receivers, you got to go after guys that have got production at the Power 4 level. You can't go for the dudes that haven't had an opportunity to get on the field. I'm thinking of, the J.J. Hesters when he transferred from Missouri, or who was the dude that came from Arizona State, LV Bunkley Shelton.
Yeah,
that's not the level of player you need to be going after. One, you don't have the roster space for it. And two, you've got a bunch of unproven guys on your roster as it is with your 2024 wide receivers, Ivan Kerryon, Zion Kearney, Zion Raggins, KJ Daniels. You've got guys that you need to continue to develop and see if you can develop them into productive members of the offense. If you're not bringing back a Nick Anderson, if other guys portal defect, you need to find somebody that had a healthy 2024 and a productive 2024. I don't think you need to go and, depending on who else leaves through the transfer portal, I don't necessarily think you have to go out and find 3 wide receivers, but if you find one guy that can be a bona fide starter for you, that's going to help you. And then if there's a depth piece out there that you feel good could be your wide receiver 4, then by all means. But again, for me, they have to have some production. At tight end, I feel similarly. Like, don't just go for the underrated tight end prospect. Go for a guy that can be a legit game changer for you right away.
Yeah. We're not in the position anymore of going after depth pieces, just, guys that can be out there to help eventually and hope that they mold into something. No, next season they need dudes that can ball out immediately, and you can let the young players in your recruiting class be those depth pieces that hopefully flourishes and moves up into the depth chart. It's make or break season. And so going from tight end to wide receiver, tight end, to quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, offensive line. If I was to have to rank them, of course, 1 is quarterback. I think wide receivers 2, offensive line 3, tight ends number 4. Now I know Ben Arbuckle uses a lot of tight end play. I've seen some 12 and 22 personnel in some of his offenses. So you're going to have some moments where you're going to have a couple tight ends on the field. And if that's the case, you're going to have to get a couple of good ones that can not only stretch the field, but block. That's probably the other thing that's going to jump out to you. So I do believe that we're going to be very active in the portal. So we're going to be talking about a lot of players that we're going to pick up. We're going to talk about how they're going to fit in the scheme of everything. Definitely over the next few days. May as well just make this a transfer portal podcast. This is literally what we're going to be talking about, because it's not going to be just us. It's going to be everybody hemorrhaging. People think that, we're going to only ones that's going to be losing good players. No, we're going to be losing a lot of players that that didn't play a lot. That's going to be the very common theme with just about everybody in college football. And Brent Venables and this staff have to figure out, all right, who's going to contribute to us next season and who's not. And right now, like I said, it's make a break. So losing Nick, losing these running backs, losing Jackson Arnold, losing Jaquez Pettaway, because that's 2 wide receivers that's already in the portal with Pettaway and Nick Anderson, John. I believe you're probably going to need 3 wide receivers. I still have questions if Deion Burks is going to make his return, especially after seeing the post about his parents. I think it was his dad and his sibling spot that burned down. Probably going to have to see if he can get a good enough grade to get some upfront money to be able to get them taken care of.
If you're looking at the offensive line, what spot do you think Oklahoma needs to go get a portal player?
I'm thinking tackle, just because that's where you don't have the most age. Now, I'm in the assumption that Sexton as well as Jake Taylor, both the Jakes come back, so Jacob and Jake, and then you'll have Isaiah Autry-Dent, who looks like he's ready to go ahead and start playing more as he's, developing his skill set. I'm thinking tackle's probably where you start. Troy Everett should be back. You're probably going to need an additional guard to go with those young guys, with EPL, Fabichi Wewu, as well as BJ Brooks. You're going to probably need one more guard to give you enough, because you still got to have the depth pieces in as you're going to have to practice, unfortunately, physically. So to me, I'd say you need a tackle, a guard. I don't think you need a center. I think we've got enough of those, but I think you do need a tackle and a guard out the portal.
So I'm looking at the guard spot, and I'm thinking, okay, if Fabichi Wewu's back, Heath Ozada's back, if those are my starters, then or EPL, Eugene Brooks, if they emerge and push for a starting job, I'm okay with those 4 guys as my top 4, to be honest. At tackle, it seems like there's going to be enough pieces there to work with, especially adding Michael Fasusi and Ryan Foje.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to find really an offensive line position where I'm like, I definitely need to add somebody. Adding a tackle makes the most sense because, listen, Logan Howland did some nice things, but he's got a lot of work to do in pass protection to continue to get better. Yep. You're not going to have Spencer Brown or Michael Tarkin over at right tackle. And like we've talked about with wide receiver, you haven't been able to rely on Jake Taylor or Jacob Sexton at all in their Oklahoma careers because they've just been injured and dinged up. So you need to go find to me, if you're going to go find one offensive line position or one position on offense aside from quarterback, because we know that quarterback is the biggest portal need, it's offensive tackle. You got to go find a bona fide offensive tackle and really make a move there. Yeah. That's the spot. If you're going to spend one at one place on the offensive line, that's the spot you got to do it. Because then I think with the other pieces that you've got, you can make something happen. But if you can find even just a Walter Rouse type, somebody that can come in and be solid for you to good, if he's not even a future first rounder, that's fine. You just got to find somebody that can stabilize the position and give you plus play at offensive tackle to help you solidify the rest of your line.
Yeah, and I look at it with the offensive line, with the tackles, and the only thing for me is I know that Bill Bedenbaugh doesn't like playing freshmen, especially super early if he can avoid it. So, but you also want bodies just so you can be healthy, right? You need to make sure that you have bodies that can step in quickly. I mean, Michael Tarquin was a great, pleasant surprise this season, especially when she started losing both Jakes coming out of the game, having him. I mean, Spencer Brown had his moments of good and bad, but you still need those bodies. And I think that that's why you probably need to get another tackle and another guard, just so you have the additional bodies to not only compete and push those dudes that we currently have, but to add that additional depth just in case. You want to make sure you have at least three. You want to have at least three deep at each spot for the most part. 15 offensive linemen is very much critical because, yeah, this is a very physical sport, and it's one of those sports where it's actually too dangerous to practice. That should tell you something about it, right?
I mean, it is, and it's going to be that way every single offseason and every single year. You're going to have guys that get dinged up and banged up. It's just the nature of the beast of football, and it is what it is. But yeah, the Oklahoma Sooners are going to be active. It's going to be interesting to see how active because, again, with the 105 transfer portal or roster limit, they're going to have to be picky about who they add because they just brought in 18 dudes plus a preferred walk-on in Sean Hutton in the 2025 recruiting class. And so they'll have to be selective about where they add guys. We'll discuss more about the transfer portal on our next show coming up Monday as the portal officially opens. Over the weekend, I'm sure we'll see more guys, quote-unquote, expected to enter the transfer portal. So make sure you're locked in with Locked On Sooners here. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit that subscribe button and that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Go check out his channel, Unfair Sports, on YouTube as well. Follow me at John 9 Williams. You can read my work covering the Sooners over at SoonersWire.com. The show is at Locked On Sooners on all your social media platforms, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. So follow us over there as well. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you then. Have a wonderful championship weekend. We didn't even talk all the great college football action that's going to be here. So have a great weekend. Boomer.
Sooner.